Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I'm going to be going over my Mega Draft deck from an event that I did yesterday for the 1-year anniversary of Lorcana. This event was so cool. Instead of the usual 4 packs from one chapter, we got 1 pack from each chapter. So it was really cool. You got to play with cards from all the chapters combined, but it was also really stressful. It was hard to make decisions about what to keep and what not to keep. I had 1 pack that had a foil Big Tinkerbell and a super rare Rapunzel, and it was really, and other good cards, and it was really hard to choose which one to keep and which one not to. And even though it was fun, it was also like a really stressful experience because there was too many cards sometimes. But there was about 14 people there. It was a pretty good turnout for a local event. But I'm gonna break it down for you, give you some tips, and explain what worked and what didn't work about the deck that I chose. Let's dive right into it. Okay, so first we have chapter 1. I chose Magic Golden Flower, so you can remove up to 3 damage from a chosen character. Really good if your opponent is attacking but not killing one of your characters and you want to heal them. Only 1 ink. Then we have Simba, so you can play him and you can draw a card and discard a card, or you don't have to use the ability. I would play this if he was my only one that I could play, and I usually didn't use the ability if it was first turn. Not the greatest one drop, but I guess if you drew it later when you wanted to discard a card, it would be useful. Then I chose Archimedes, pretty good, 2/2, only 1 ink, it's a good start. No abilities, just vanilla. Tamatoa, he was pretty beefy on defense, but only 1 attack. This was a weakness of my deck that I'll go into more later in the video, but a lot of my cards only have 1 attack, and that was a disadvantage against islands that had 9 health that I played against, and it was really hard for me to kill them because I could only attack so little every turn. And Sudden Chill, I didn't end up even using Sudden Chill just because I needed ink. My deck, we'll go into that later, but mainly I didn't get to use it, which was kind of not to my advantage. I probably shouldn't have even included it in my deck. Then we have Yzma. So whenever they quest, I can look at the top card and put it either at the top or the bottom of my deck. I only used this ability a couple of times, I think, and it was, I guess, helpful, but mainly it was just like nice that it was only 2. It's a 2/2/2, so it's pretty strong. Then for 4s, so I only took 1, 2, and 4 ink drop cards for this deck. I took Jafar, Challenger +3, while challenging. That was pretty good. That would make it a 5/5 with 4 costs, which is pretty good. I took Hakuna Matata, which allowed me to remove up to 3 damage from each of my characters. I only used this once. I wish I could have used it more, but it just didn't work out in my favor. I had to use attacking cards way more than healing cards. A lot of the time, my opponent would just take out my card and I wouldn't have damage to heal. So that kind of was unfortunate. I needed to play a lot of attacking cards instead of healing cards, just based on the decks that I was playing against. Then I got this Rapunzel. Oh my goodness. She was a great card, helped me so much, helped me win a couple of games. So when I play her, I can remove 3 damage from one of my characters and draw a card for each amount of damage removed that way. So if I remove 3, I can draw 3 cards. Super helpful turn 4 or turn 5 using her. And lastly, I have Anna. So when I play her, if I had Elsa, then chosen character couldn't ready at the start of my next turn. I used her mainly for ink, but I used her a couple of times for lore. I didn't have Elsa, so it was kind of unfortunate. But she still helped me like for ink wise, but not the best thing to draft. It was really hard to know what to draft because of so many card options that you could get from each of the different chapters. But this was my chapter 1 picks, 10. I only had 41 in my deck, so I picked 10 from each and 11 from, I think, the 3rd chapter. So yeah. Now moving on to chapter 2. I took 10 from chapter 2. I took no 1s, started with the 2s. I took Pain. Well, this character has 5 or more attack, he gets +2 lore. I was hoping that I could draw a card that would increase his attack by that much, but I did not. so that was unfortunate. But it's a 2 ink and a quest for 1, so I just still used it for that ability or ink. Almost all of my cards are inkable. I usually draft that way. But yeah, pain. Snow White, when I play this character, I can remove 2 damage from chosen character. I have a lot of cards that remove damage in this deck, but like I said, it didn't really necessarily work out in my favor because so many of my opponents would just take out my cards and I didn't have any damage to heal, so it kind of sucked, but this was good when I could use it. Then just vanilla mini 3/2, pretty beefy for 2 ink. She was good for helping me attack islands and such. Merlin, when I play him and when he leaves play, look at the top card of my deck, put it at the top or the bottom. I rarely use this. I probably shouldn't have even had it in my deck, to be honest. Just, it was kind of unnecessary, and I would draw it sometimes when I wish I could have drawn a beefier card, and it was just kind of unfortunate because it didn't help me progress. Balu, also pretty beefy, 4/3, pretty good for 3 ink. I used him a couple of times to attack as well. Caterpillar, this was make or break. Some games it won me the game for the 3 lore, and some it lost me because I played it too soon. My opponent banished it, and then I was screwed because I was counting on that for lore and I couldn't even use it. They would have certain actions or spells that could, or like Madam Mim, that would banish it before I even got to quest it. Really unfortunate because honestly I should have just waited to play it till the end. In the games that I did do that, I usually won because they couldn't take it out at that point because they had no cards, and I was able to quest multiple times and just take the dub. Lucifer, I really liked this card a lot. It says when you play this character, each opponent chooses and discards either 2 cards or 1 action card. Such a good card. This I would wait to play until my opponent had 2 cards in their hand, and I would play it, and usually they would have to discard 2 cards, and they were pissed. It was a really good way to kind of catch them and disrupt their gameplay, and it won me a couple of games as well. Also quests for 2, which is like just an added bonus. Then I have Ray, this little slippery, slimy guy. He's evasive and he quests for 3, and he's a 3/3. Amazing card. Love this card. This was similar to the Caterpillar though, in the sense that if my opponent got rid of them too soon, it kind of screwed me because I usually didn't have a lot of other cards in hand that could quest for that high amount, and I would have wasted 5 ink to play them. And another thing too is he's evasive, which was helpful if they don't have any evasives, but a couple of my opponents had like literally a deck full of evasives, it seemed like, and they would play like 5 evasives and then he wouldn't even be any good. I had to attack into theirs, but then he would die, so that was an unfortunate consequence of that I wasn't expecting, but you live and you learn. And then got this 5/5/5 Winnie the Pooh. I rarely played him just because if I had more than 1 5 in hand and I had to use 1 to attack, I just would have used Donald instead, who's a 6/5, also for 5 ink. And yeah, I didn't take any 6s. Those are all of my Chapter 2 card picks. Now moving on to Chapter 3. For Chapter 3, I took 11 cards. I took Kita, a 2/2. Boss's orders, chosen character gets support this turn. Whenever they quest, you can add their attack to another chosen character's attack. That was a 1 ink. I didn't take enough 1 ink, so whenever I needed to play a 1, I usually had to use that for ink, unfortunately. Next time I think I'm going to definitely take more 1s. I think that's a pretty common problem that a lot of players have, but this would have been a nice card to use if I needed to take out an island quicker, but I usually didn't have it in hand when I needed that. For 2s, I took Nutsy, a 2/3, Lena Sea Brewing, who's a rush character. Also wasn't really that helpful because she's only a 1/3. What am I going to take out for one defense? Like, not much. So not really that helpful usually, but I would still like play her for 2-drop if I didn't have any others, but just not use the rush. Razul, when he has no damage, he gets +2, so basically he's a 3/3 for 2 ink. Peter Pan, a rush, and if I had Tinkerbell, then he would get +2 attack. Quest for 2. I use this for questing a couple of times. I didn't use it for rushing either because he is a 1 attack, not really that helpful, and only 3 defense. But if I had Tinkerbell, it would have been much more helpful. Then Pluto, a 3/4 defensive guy. Then Agrabah, this island. This would help me in a couple of games against opponents who didn't know, like, oh, I should take out this first. They would try attacking my characters instead of taking out the island. I was getting 2 lore automatically every time. So when I played against opponents that didn't really like grasp that, I won, but a couple of people took it out right away. And then it was like, oh wow, I used 3 ink to do that, and it didn't really have much of an effect. So that was the lesson from that. Then I took Jetsam, Riffraff. He has Ward, so you can't choose him except a challenge, and Quests for 2. That was good. Magic Broom, so while they're at a location, they get +2. I only had 1 location. This probably wasn't that good of a card to take because it's a 1/5, so it doesn't really do much attack. That was what I was struggling with, as I was saying. I would definitely know for next time not to do that, not to take a card like that. And then Louis was a great help, honestly. They have support, so whenever they quest, you can add their attack to another character's attack. This was like a lot of cards I had to like learn while I was playing. But Louis ended up helping me a lot, whether it was questing and adding his attack, or just questing, or just attacking. He was like a well-rounded card. And those are all of my Chapter 3 cards. Only took kind of lower cards. I kind of also regret that. I think next time I'm going to take more 6s and 7s. I barely had any, and I think it would have really helped me like towards the end of the game. Lastly, we have Chapter 4. Took 10 from Chapter 4. I took the Fates. When I play them, I can look at the top card of my deck. 2/1, pretty good for a start. Diablo, my favorite card to start with. Literally 1-drop, 1/1, 1/2, sorry. And when I play it, I can look at my opponent's hand. Like, the best way to start a game. In my constructed, I play green, so I think that, yeah, I don't know, it's just my preferred way of starting a game. Magic Broom, during my turn, this card gets evasive, and they can challenge with evasive. I wish I could have played this card more against that opponent that I played that had all evasives, but unfortunately I just wasn't drawing it at the right times. Kind of sucked, but that would have been helpful, and that was my kind of plan with that. Jetsam, Challenger +2, and Flotsam gets Challenger +2, if I had one, but I didn't really do the Flotsam Jetsam thing too much this tournament. Then for 4s, I took Daisy Duck, so when I play her, each opponent chooses and discards a card. Louisa Madrigal, they can challenge the turn they're played. I use this a lot because it's a 4/3, and I would just take out cards that they weren't expecting me to right away, and that was a huge help, to be honest. Panic, I had Pain, but I didn't really have that many villains, so it wasn't that great. I was hoping that I would have more, which is kind of stupid because I drew it last, but that was my intention. I don't know, it's just also rushed when you're doing it that I should have looked through my deck more, but I just was like, oh, I have Pain, like I should take this card. But he quests for 2. I don't think I even used him, to be honest. I didn't really draw him that much, or I just used him for ink, but yeah, it would have been nice if I had more villain characters, then I could have been more protected against that. Li Shang, I think I used him once or twice for his attack capabilities. He also quests for 2, but I would usually use him to attack things for 5. TikTok, really beefy defense, 7 defense, I would use him against islands or characters with like 5 attack that I could withstand, and it was nice. And lastly, Nessus. Huge beefy guy I could use to take out islands, and he has 5 defense and quest for 2. Really good card, but like I said, I only have a couple of 6s. I should have taken way more because I always got to that ink cost and I was drawing 2s. I needed more high level cards in order to defend and attack my opponent. So that was kind of like the general lesson that I learned. It's definitely way more difficult to draft between 4 chapters. There's so many cards, you're really thinking on the fly, everybody around you is making decisions in seconds, and sometimes I need like a couple of minutes, I feel like, to look through all of my cards. So yeah, it was a challenge. I ended up going 2-1, and I would definitely be interested in doing another one in the future. All in all, I think it went great. It's really hard to make split decisions that quickly, especially when the people drafting next to you are making it in seconds, passing you decks. It can be really high pressure sometimes, especially when you're trying to read the cards and draft smartly. But I think it was a really great learning experience. Now I have way more knowledge about cards in all the chapters, whereas before I was kind of just specializing in certain chapters or on certain decks. Now I kind of have a really broad knowledge, and I think like draft tournaments like that are really good for learning. Definitely would recommend for players who are looking to broaden their knowledge about all the different cards. I ended up buying a lot of packs at the store after the tournament because I want to do a pack opening video to try to draw an enchanted. So stay tuned for that video, it's coming soon. Let me know what you think of this mega draft format in the comments, and like always, thank you for subscribing and staying tuned with all of our videos. We'll see you very soon.